I feel like Hollywood has changed where I now feel again like you don't leave your culture at the door. It's like I'm back in Ecuador a little bit and people want to learn about your perspective and your experience and they want to find the universal themes in those stories.
And now we're gonna find out all the deep, dark secrets of Hollywood. Yes. With our next guest, Kauveh Khozein Carrera, who is here from the Latin Tracking Board. That sounds a little suspicious to me. I don't know. Is it just me?
I can't talk about it at all.
You're gonna talk about it in a second.
No, we won't, but let's go, kids. Take us out, right?
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Wow. We're not going to talk about that tracking, but let's just talk about what we generally talk about. And you've gotten very involved behind the scenes in trying to connect Latino writers, producers, actors with the industry.
Yes.
And a lot of Latino executives you bring in and kind of connect us with. Sometimes it's American people. Why did you feel that you had to start connecting people behind the scenes in Hollywood? Why has this turned into your mission?
You know, it's really funny. Like, it didn't really start with like a big sweeping like goal for me. What happened to me was I'm from Ecuador, and I just really missed living in Latin America.
Wow.
And I kept hearing these tidbits of how growing Hispanic population in the United States and Latino audiences are just so bankable. And in the meantime, I was just by myself in Los Angeles. I knew no other Latinos. I'd lived there for like 3 years at this point, and I was like, okay, well, where are they? And also, like, where are my people?
They're here at LATV.
Where did you start? What kind of jobs did you start taking when you first moved here? Did you want to be a performer? Or you wanted to be behind the scenes?
I always wanted to be behind the scenes. Like, I always wanted to be like either a filmmaker or a producer, but I wasn't sure what positions even existed. So I got a job in management. So I worked for a manager who represented actors, writers, and directors. And then eventually I would get a job at a really great production company and just start learning the ins and outs of how to make a TV show from script to screen.
Wow.
And while I was getting that instruction, I, as an immigrant, realized, because I'm not a refugee, so it's not like I left my country and was like, never again. No, like I applied here for college, came here, then stayed here.
Gotcha.
But once you realize you're really never going back, like this is kind of where you're gonna...
You can never go home again.
Yeah, and I can, but because of what I want to do professionally in my life, and like anything in life, like all the ingredients just start pointing into a certain direction, I realized I'm never gonna go back. And I was so eager to leave to pursue financial opportunity that I never appreciated how beautiful Latin America was and how unique it is, and how even in the most exciting moments in the United States, it's just never going to be the same for me, in the sense that I didn't realize just how beautiful and vibrant and unique that part of the world is.
Let me ask you this, because you are privy to management companies and a lot of the major agencies and all that stuff, and a lot of the major networks and producers. So you hear them kind of give us what I say the lip service that yes, Latinos are bankable, they're growing, all this stuff, and we are seeing more. I'm not gonna lie, we're seeing more Latino characters, Latino storylines, and all that stuff. But we're still so underrepresented disproportionately when compared to even other minorities. Are we getting over that threshold yet, or do you still kind of see like what I feel where it's like we're getting a lot of lip service. Yeah, you want to bank on us, you want to help us out, but we're still not getting, the right amount of opportunities. Like, what do you feel the status is right now when it comes to Latin stories and Latin characters in the general market of American media?
Well, so the reason that I started wanting to connect with other Latinos was just because I didn't think there were that many of us.
Wow.
So I was like, I met
Here
like
in LA.
in Hollywood.
Okay, in
right?
Hollywood,
Like,
okay,
and of course, like there's Univision. Like, yes, there are absolutely outlets. But in the side of the business that I was working on, I worked at Scott Free Productions, which is Ridley Scott's production company.
Wow.
And in that side of the business, like I just really hadn't met a lot of Latinos, and so I met people through mutual friends. I cold called companies that I knew had Latin employees in it, and I was able to pool a small group of friends that we became very tight with, and we were like, let's just have an event once a month so we can just meet and bring other Latinos, because we hear that there's potential. We've seen with Eugenio Derbez that there's financial potential, but the truth is no one's doing anything about it, and I think part of it is what you're saying, where like it's lip service really. And everything is lip service. It's the same plight that women are dealing with in Hollywood, where like I'm sure that you, as a woman of color, you see it in both ways, where like there's lip service for the POCs and then there's lip service for the women, but neither gap is being closed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I realized that yes, I'm sure that there's a very pervasive system that is purposely keeping us outside, but it's also just Hollywood. Everyone's overworked. everyone's underpaid, no one has time for extracurricular activities, and to open the door for Latinos, that's something someone has to do.
Right.
And people who aren't Latin don't want to do it. And I don't
Yeah, why would they care for us is what my thing.
Yeah, exactly. I hit a wall. I was like, I'm not going to come from an angry place because, like, I want to help other Latinos, but, like, if someone were to ask me, well, why aren't you helping more Indian Americans in the industry? It's like, oh, well, I think they should, but that's just not my calling.
Right.
You don't connect to it.
Yeah, and so, like, rather than protesting, I was like, okay, I should do this. Truthfully, the blame is on us. For not making more of a community with each other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so I feel like I agree that it is a problem that more people aren't doing enough, but why are you waiting for someone else to solve your problem?
That's a great thing.
You know?
One of my favorite Obama quotes is, "We are the ones we've been waiting for."
Yes, exactly. We're our own heroes, right?
Right.
So
You're the leading man of your own show.
I agree.
Of your life.
It's
So
true.
it's really on us, and something that happened to me growing up was I realized that I never really appreciated being Latin because that's just not the rhetoric that our culture is depicted
I agree.
with, right?
I agree. I mean, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I always feel like I love doing things with the Latin community. I don't know if this happened to you, but parents are always like, oh, pero no vayas a trabajar con los latinos.
No,
Los latinos son,
yeah.
eso es un reguero. Vete con los gringos. Los gringos, they got it going on. Like, they go work with them.
Precisely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. There's never any pride.
There's no pride, and it's because Latin America is a part of the world that historically has gone through a lot of pain, a lot of destabilization. Like the last 400 years have not been great for us in terms of outside forces coming in.
You're right. It's almost embedded in our culture of like having unstable, not cemented and grounding. Whereas like cold, white, calculated white people, they stabilize really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of people who either are trying to leave their countries or or left their countries for a reason, and so it's on these younger generations to really have a revisionist, perspective and be like, but this part of the world actually is beautiful.
Right.
But we have to start believing in it, because if we're not the ones saying salsa dancing is just as like cool as tap dancing and river dancing, like if we're not the ones who are like really elevating this in the way that K-pop has been elevated, then it's not going to be cool.
So tell us, Ecuador, LA, like, okay, how did that happen? Why did you come out here? Well, obviously for school and all that good stuff.
Yes, it was a very eclectic upbringing. I'm actually half Persian. My dad, moved to Ecuador after the Iranian Revolution.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in South America, but I grew up feeling similarly to how a lot of U.S. Latinos grow up.
Oh, wow.
Which is feeling like an outsider in your own country, because I was that kid who had this really angry Persian dad. And you walk into my house and it was like Iran in the 70s, because he'd been kicked out of his own country. So like a lot of immigrants who like left the country in circumstances that weren't ideal, he really wanted to retain his identity in his house, because he's in another country where like everything else is very different, and he's very proud of who he is. So I had to coach my friends, being like, it's gonna be a lot of marble. There's gonna be food everywhere.
Wow.
He's very loud, but he's not angry. Like he's screaming, but he's not angry. Like he's just trying to have a conversation with you.
Sounds like my dad.
Sounds like Latinos. And so, it was this embracing that your culture is very different from the mainstream, right? And laughing at it when it was a little ridiculous, and being embarrassed by it when it didn't fit in, right? And it wasn't cool. But while I had this narrative in the back of my head, I grew up really not liking, Latin America, because these countries have been put through so much, and these younger generations are being, thrown into it where there's not a lot of economic opportunity, where there's so much, destabilized organizations that are just kind of trying to move forward, but you're just not given the same level of opportunity that a lot of people have in the United States. That's why people still want to come to this country. So I was lucky that I had the green card because my dad was kicked out of Iran. And so it was my first encounter with the privilege that I have of being like, oh, I have this piece of paper. I didn't do anything for it. And that opens a door of opportunities I didn't really work for. And so it really kind of made me realize just how unfair like this whole world is, and how you have to be like respectful and own up to the ways in which you kind of cheated and were able to cut through some steps to get to where you want to go.
So a lot of people watching the show that saw the last episode are gonna get confused, because we covered the show Messiah from Netflix. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, I've
You
not
look
seen
like
it.
the star a little bit.
I look more like Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Okay.
Actually.
Hey, but the guy from Messiah is like a good-looking guy.
He is, but he's like, he might be fake Jesus. I don't want to be fake Jesus.
You're the real Jesus.
I'm real Jesus.
Oh, damn. Authentic, 100%.
Let's not touch that topic.
Grass-fed Jesus.
Sacrilege on
And
the
people
Zoom.
have left the channel.
Kauveh, what do you think about this whole initiative here in Hollywood with Mayor Eric Garcetti? He's doing the whole LA Collab initiative to get more Latinos in front of and behind the scenes.
I think it's amazing. I think that it's.
I think they stole your idea.
I think I think that we're all starting to feel that we have to really put our monies where our mouths are. It can't just be a press statement anymore. Now we really have to embrace our cultures, and I think that we're all going through a very exciting place where, and again, this goes back to me just being like a Persian in Latin America and now being a Latino in the United States, is that something that did happen in Ecuador was that people were always very interested in my culture, and people were always like, "Oh my God, this is Kauveh. He's Persian. Like, you have to go to his house. Like, his dad's cooking is amazing." Like, that's how I was introduced to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk to you refer to my dad as, they all called him Baba Jun, which is like daddy in Farsi. Like, they really embraced that culture, even though it wasn't theirs. And in the United States, I felt like you had to leave your culture at the door, right? And then kind of fit into this work setting that really whitewashed, you in a lot of ways if you weren't white. But I feel like Hollywood has changed, where I now feel again like you don't leave your culture at the door. It's like I'm back in Ecuador a little bit, and people want to learn about your perspective and your experience, and they want to find the universal themes in those stories. Now, what this Mayor Garcetti initiative is going to do, that remains to be seen.
It's called LA Collab.
Yes, yeah, it's called LA Collab, and they're trying to find ways to tell more Latin stories and bring more Latinos into the industry. I hope that it tackles issues that are very, very problematic in our industry, from the fact that we live in Los Angeles. There's a lot of Latinos here. They're right there.
Yeah.
None of them are getting internships here. None of them even fathom having a career in this industry. None of them see themselves ever doing it. To them, it's an outside.
That seems so weird to me though, because I'm from the East Coast, and I'm like, for me, it was always like, no matter if I was Latino or period, I was like, the thing is to come to Hollywood.
Yeah.
So for people here not to even realize that they can do things, and this is where they have to do it.
Like, there's so many people here, and to them, it's like another world. And it's like, well, it was another world for me. I was in Ecuador.
Wow, literally.
How do you feel the same way I did when I was in the other side of the continent? And so I think that, how do we fix that, right? And it's so daunting, and I hope that the LA Collab tackles that. Because
I hope it's not just a political move, a political charade. Like, look, where Eric Garcetti obviously is the mayor of Los Angeles, and he has to, so many of his constituents are Latino. And look, we had this press conference, and I'm standing with a bunch of people from the industry, and we intend to open up doors. But I want to see those doors open up. See, at least with you actually, how you open up doors? People get introduced, they talk. You can create those connections. I've made a couple connections through you. From some of the get-togethers that you put together. So I hope that this LA Collab thing and the mayor of LA really put their money where their mouth is, and are not just saying it to look a certain way.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I feel like, I'm someone asked me the other day, like, oh my God, In the Heights, are you really excited about it? And I'm like, I'm super excited about it, but I don't really celebrate, these landmarks, because to me it's like, keep going. What else? What else? I mean,
what's next?
It's great, but we shouldn't act like, okay, done, and that's our fix for the year. Like, I'm so happy for In the Heights. Where's the next one, right? Like, we need to kind of seize the momentum, which is why with the networking organization that I have, it's a monthly thing. It's every single month. It's not one press conference and then maybe something will come out of it. There's a consistency to it, and I hope that the LA Collab brings that consistency.
If somebody wants to get involved with it, where do they go? How do they find out about it? Do they just email you?
Well, we have an Instagram account.
What's the handle?
It's at LatinB. And you should just email the Latin Tracking Board at gmail.com if you ever want to get involved. We're still broadening, kind of our footprint in the industry. We're figuring out how we can best position ourselves in the industry, because there's just so many issues with representation that you want to make sure that you're tackling things strategically. But we're always happy for any, solicitations or opportunities. So check us out.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was so informative. There's so much.